This story starts with the male lead saying, "I've fallen in love with Grace. I'm sorry, but I'd like you to break off our engagement as soon as possible, Selonia." Selonia Bessin, the only daughter of Duke Bessin and Ian Cherville's fiancé, stood in shock. She asked, "Excuse me," Ian continued. "I feel bad about saying this now, just as you've woken up, but I'd like to marry Grace as soon as I can." Selonia thought, what did I just hear? Break off our engagement? All of a sudden? And who's Grace? What happened while I was asleep for the past few months? It's already been 9 months since she woke up in this novel and started living as Selonia. And now, the male lead of this novel and her fiancé, Ian Cherville, wants to break off their engagement. Surviving the Demon Lord. It's an ordinary romantic fantasy novel she was reborn into. As the title predicts, it's a novel about defeating the most powerful villain of the story, the Demon Lord. The story goes as follows. The person she was reborn as, Selonia Bessin, is the novel's heroine and one of the few healers in the Empire. The hero of this novel is her fiancé, Ian Cherville. Meant to have a marriage of convenience at first, the two shared little affection for each other. Around the time their relationship was starting to dwindle and their dates were becoming boring, the Demon Lord suddenly resurrected. Following the appearance of the frightful Demon Lord, the Empire assembled a team of elite warriors to subjugate him. Ian Cherville, the captain of the Moonlight Order, together with Selonia, wholeheartedly accepted the Empire's request in the name of peace. They were joined by the supporting male lead and Holy Knight, Leif Hetchel, as well as another supporting male lead, Mac Ryan, who inherited the blood of the dragon. Both Leif and Mac Ryan loved Selonia, but Ian and Selonia realized their true love for each other during their expedition. While Leif and Mac Ryan had no choice but to look on as their beloved chose another man, they still devoted themselves to helping Selonia and genuinely wished for her happiness. And so, the four friends worked together to defeat the Demon Lord. The male and female lead got married, sealing their love with the oath of marriage. At least, that's how the story should have ended. Until the subjugation of the Demon Lord, the story followed the same path as the original novel. But Selonia became bedridden for some unknown reason on their way home. When she finally woke up 3 months later, the first thing she heard from her fiancé's mouth. "He wants me to break off the engagement," Ian sighed. "You won't be disappointed with your compensation. If you understand, I'd like to get this over with right away." Suddenly Selonia felt a throb and recalled him saying, "It's alright. I just wish for you to suffer less. I'd rather be sick myself than see you sick." When Selonia joined the dangerous expedition right after her rebirth, she relied on Ian a lot to endure it. He may not have been her real fiancé, but she had no idea that their engagement would end like this. Ian continued, "I don't remember you being such a pathetic person. How much longer are you going to drag this out for?" Hearing that, she thought, he had a look on his face I'd never seen before. It was as if he had had enough of me. I must really mean nothing to him anymore. She spoke. "Fine. Let's break off the engagement," she thought in her mind. It wasn't my position to begin with, but if the first thing he asks his fiancée, who just woke up, is to break off their engagement, I'm not interested either, she said. "In return, I'd like to decide the compensation, so wait until I inform you," she concluded. "Nevertheless, I won't let this slide. He betrayed me, so I'm going to take away the thing he cherishes most," Ian sarcastically said. "Ha! I had no idea you were so greedy," she countered. "What a pity," Ian agreed. "Fine. Should I write you a pledge?" She thinks in her mind. He sounds so annoyed. He really has no respect for me whatsoever, huh? And to think that I trusted a man like this. He's made the moments I trusted him, as we risked our lives together, completely meaningless. No, this is who he really is. Maybe it's good that I found out as soon as possible. Thanks to that, a bastard like him won't be able to affect my life at all. Ian signed a piece of paper and throws it towards Selonia. "Here. My pledge. Happy now?" Looking at the paper, she thought, "Happy? The time I spent with you has culminated into a single scrap of paper. Yet you expect me to be happy?" Then he turned and said, "Since we're done here, I'll get going." She stopped him. "Wait, one more thing," he asked, turning. "What now?" She thought to herself. "I can't just let him go like this," she said, smiling. "Can you come closer? This is our last moment together." She extends her hand towards him. He replied, "Ha, fine, I guess I can shake your hand one last." As he reached towards her hand, she clenches her fists and strikes him across his face. He staggered and shouted, What in the world do you think you're doing?" she replied. What am I doing? Did you really expect me to be so sophisticated as to shake your hand? You're right, I'm pathetic. But if you've done something you deserve to get hit for, I have the right to do so, don't I? Please don't tell me you'll get back at me for this. You're not that small-minded of a man, are you? She replied, goodbye. I won't see you off. As he left, slamming the door, she said aloud, bastard. I thought he'd be my first real family. Before she woke up in this novel, she lived a lonely life without any parents or friends to rely on. She died an early death after becoming sick. With no body to return to anyway, she wanted to continue to live as Selonia. Here in this world, she had a family, friends, and even a man who loved her. After all, she thought to herself, well, that lover is long gone now. But still, how many people get to live as the female lead and a duke's daughter in a novel? Forget about what happened in the past. I don't need a lover. I still have my dear friends beside me. My precious friends with whom I shared my life as we hung between life and death at the front lines. Regardless of them being the supporting male leads, they're my dear friends whom I wouldn't give up for anything. Well, that's what she thought until a few days ago. Leif told her about his withdrawal. She gasped while drinking tea. He asked, Are you all right, my lady? Wiping her face, she asked. But Leif, what did you just say? He averted his gaze, saying, I'm sorry to say this, but I'd like to withdraw the knight's pledge I made to you, he added. I have a new lady I'd like to protect for the rest of my life. Selonia got a hunch. This can't be. He continued, I'm going to make an eternal pledge to Miss Grace Benet. Hearing that, she thought, Leif Hetchel. Even my friend has changed his mind? She wondered. And who on earth is this Grace? She remembered Ian saying, I'd like you to break off our engagement as soon as possible. And Leif saying, I'm going to make an eternal pledge to Miss Grace Benet. Selonia touches her face, thinking, Am I dreaming? She pinched her cheek. Leif flinched. Ah, Lady Selonia. She thinks to herself, first, Ian wants me to break off our engagement, and now Leif, who promised to protect me for the rest of his life, has withdrawn his pledge. That hurts. Only after pinching my cheek so hard that I teared up did I realize that none of this was a dream. He nervously asked, Are you all right? She thinks in her mind, if someone asked me if I loved Ian Cherville, I would say no. Regardless of the fact that he was a gentle and affectionate hero, the real Selonia and I were different people. On the flip side, because I wasn't really her, it was easier to accept that the story was moving along a different path and my dear companions had left me. However, she said aloud, the time we spent together wasn't fake. Leif asked, Pardon? What did you just say? She replied, Oh, nothing. She continued, thinking, It's true that I'm sad the same thing happened to me twice, but there's no need to be mad about Leif withdrawing his knight's pledge. Still, I should tell him the truth as his friend, right? She began. Leif, I'd like to support you, but Grace Benet will soon be engaged to Ian, she thought to herself. I'm sure it must be a shock to him. When he pledged his love to me, he didn't get anything in return either. He has lost to Ian once again, so he must be heartbroken, he said. I know. Selonia gets baffled. Why, you're aware? He replied. Yes. But I can't stop being fond of her. I'm fine with just admiring her from afar. She recalled the scene where Leif confessed to her earlier. Being able to protect Lady Selonia is all I ask for, Leif told. Being able to protect Miss Grace is all I ask for. She thinks that's exactly what he said to me as well. She was about to say but stopped, thinking. It's not like I feel betrayed or hurt. Who he loves is his choice. And unlike Ian, Leif isn't cheating on me. He simply had a change of mind. But Leif is the first friend I made after I came here. Him telling me this means that our friendship is as good as over, and that we won't be seeing each other anymore. So I can't help but be disappointed. Then he said, Forgive me, Lady Selonia, she replied. It's alright, Leif. It's your heart, so you can do what you want. No need to be sorry. She realized, however, something is strange. First Ian, and now even Leif. How did they both end up falling in love with the same person? Could it really just be a coincidence? I'm sure it's no use asking Leif. She rises up from her place, saying, Leif, thank you for everything, for how you cared for me, and the time we spent together. She went close to him, extending her hand, and said, I wish you happiness. Leif began. Lady Selonia, but stopped in the middle. After a moment he stands up and clasped her hand, saying, I wish you good health. Selonia beamed. You too, Leif. Then he bowed. Goodbye, my lady. and started walking away. After he left, Selonia thought, so this is the end of me and Leif. She plopped to her chair in despair and said, what exactly happened to me while I was out cold? From the minute I arrived here to the moment we defeated the demon lord and headed back home, everything happened as per the original novel. The point at which the story suddenly changed was when I suddenly collapsed during our journey back. I was on the verge of death for 3 months, unaware of what happened. And during that time, the male leads all fell in love with another woman and turned their backs on me. Suddenly she remembered, wait, come to think of it, there's still one male lead left. Someone came calling. Sally! Sally! Are you here? He came close and said, oh, I found you. Mac Ryan, descendant of the dragon. She asked, why now of all times? She thinks, could it be, he said, about the heart that I gave you before? I'd like it back. I have someone else I'd like to give it to. Selonia jolted hearing that. She said inwardly, you once told me that heart would protect me forever, didn't you? And now you want it back as if I was just holding onto it for you temporarily? I felt even more horrible, because I just knew who he was going to give the dragon's heart to instead. She said, this person you want to give it to, I suspect it's Grace Benet. Mac Ryan gets startled. Huh? How did you know? Have you been digging up information on me? Hearing that, she chuckled at first, and then burst out laughing. Ah ha 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 ha. She thinks the male leads have fallen in love with someone whose name didn't even appear once in the original novel. Grace Benet. Extra and extra. A few months ago, during the expedition, Selonia tripped at the edge of a cliff. While she was falling, she thought, and no, this can't be happening. Am I going to die like this? In such a ridiculous way? Then Mac Ryan also jumped after her, shouting, Sally! Sally! Stay still! I'll come and save you! He transformed into a dragon and saved Selonia. After catching her, he flew and dropped at a steady place. Then Selonia took a breath of relief and said, I thought I was going to die. Mac Ryan, thank you for save. Then after transforming again, Mac Ryan quickly grabs her and shouted, Sally! Are you out of your mind? Why did you climb up that steep cliff? It's dangerous there. You could have died, she replied hesitatingly. Well, Silkia grows there, so, the Silkia flower. It's a flower that's considered extremely precious by adventurers due to its effectiveness in treating illnesses. In the original novel, there were never any issues obtaining this flower. So why did the cliff I stepped on that time come crumbling down? He sighed. I'm sorry for getting so upset. I just freaked out when I saw you falling. Human life is so weak and can be crushed so easily. It's fleetingly short and delicate. She interrupted him. Mac, sorry but he cut her off. Sally, since you're a weak human instead of a transcendent being like myself, you'll need this. He puts his hand on his chest, and a light glows from the place of his heart. It was a glowing heart. While showing it, he said, It is said to hold the power to protect whoever possesses it. There's only one of this in the world, a dragon's heart. Seeing that, she felt touched. Mac, but if you give me this, what happens to you? He replied. I'll only be able to use 1/10 of my powers, but it's fine, as long as it means I can be with you a bit longer. He handed her the heart. Then she said, Mac, I'm content with that. Back to the present, Mac Ryan demanded. What are you waiting for? Give me back the heart that I gave you. She sighed, thinking, and now, even Mac Ryan? He asked. But how did you know about Grace? Are you sure you were bedridden for 3 months? She glared at him. Is that all you have to say to me after I just woke up? He shrugged it off. Oh, sorry. Do you feel alright now? She felt annoyed for a moment, then she said, Follow me. I'll give you back your heart. After getting inside, he asked, Sally, you really are better now, right? Sorry, I was a bit inconsiderate before, she replied. It's fine, Mac. I understand. Shall we continue where we left off? Then she called out. Ella. The maid came and replied, Yes, my lady. Selonia ordered her. Bring me my jewelry box from the safe in my room. After the maid left to get it, Selonia said, You'll get it back soon, so sit down and wait, he replied. All right. Then he glanced at her, saying, Aren't you going to ask me why? She replied. What other reason is there than the fact that you've changed your mind? She clasped her hands, thinking, Actually, I want to ask him, but I'm scared of finding out the truth. That everything these men did was only for the original plot to unfold. I'm starting to doubt that I actually experienced everything that happened in the past 6 months. Then he said, So you've been storing my heart in a safe all this time? She replied. Of course. I wouldn't want to lose it. It's precious to me, he repeated. Precious. He felt slightly nervous. Sally, the thing is, He was interrupted by the knock on the door. Selonia said, "Come in." The maid came with a box. Selonia said inwardly, "The heart of Mac Ryan, the Empire's last dragon. Just as the legend says, I've never gotten hurt since receiving this heart. I'm sure there was another reason why I fell unconscious for 3 months." She then stands up holding the box and said, "Mac, thank you for always protecting me," she said to herself. "Thanks to him, I was able to survive until now," she added. "Have a safe trip back. I won't be seeing you off." After receiving the box, he replied, "Sure." After he left, Selonia plopped to sofa and sighed. Seeing that, the maid said, "You must be devastated, my lady." Selonia then said, "You know," maid replied. "Why, yes?" she asked. "How would you feel if someone snatched up and ate the dish you cooked with ingredients you put your life on the line for?" Maid replied. I'd feel really upset," Selonia said. "You would, right? I'm not just disappointed. I'm furious." She flared up, thinking, "The moment I arrived in this world, I was forced to join the expedition, so the only people I had were my companions. After going through a living hell, I thought I'd finally live a decent life. But all my efforts went up in smoke." She then called out, "Ella," the maid replied. "Yes?" she instructed. "Ask the finest guild to gather information on Grace Benet. Have them find out if she's been displaying any unusual behavior lately, or if the way she speaks or acts has changed. Make sure nothing is left out." She then said to herself, "Whether this is all merely a coincidence or not, I'm going to find out." The next day, Ella asked while brushing her hair, "My lady, how are you feeling now?" Selonia asked. Why?" she replied. "You still look rather listless." Selonia agreed. "Yeah," she said to herself, "actually, when I dozed off for a second a moment ago, I had a dream about our expedition to subjugate the demon lord. The heavy rain made it difficult to travel through the mountains that day. Following the others, I lost my balance on the muddy path and fell down. And when I did, all 3 of them rushed to reach out their hands to me." Leif said, "My lady, please take my hand. The path is rough," Mac Ryan said. "Sally, should I take you on my back?" Ian offered. "This way, my lady." She recalled, "Of course." I took the hand of my fiancé, Ian, and we walked together, hand in hand. Behind me, I could feel Leif and Mac Ryan withdraw their hands in disappointment, but I thought it was better not to create any room for misunderstanding since I couldn't reciprocate their feelings, and so I didn't look back. "But of course, these are all faded memories now," she replied to Ella. "I'm fine. I just had a dream about the old days, that's all." "Anyway, how is father?" Ella said. "His Grace? Why, of course." She remembered her father saying, "Oh, my beloved Selonia, why did she skip dinner? Prepare a delicious meal for her right away. He's been very upset, making a lot of these remarks." Selonia said, "Oh, dear father." Duke Galloway Bessin, after losing his beloved wife, devoted himself wholeheartedly to raising his daughter. He was a father who genuinely loved and cared for his family. When the female lead woke up as Selonia, it was already decided that she would join the expedition, but her father still strongly opposed it. Of course, he ended up giving in to his daughter, like most parents do, but as a result, his daughter returned home in an unconscious state. Selonia remembered, based on what Ella told me, all the renowned physicians, healers, and priests across the country had come to see me. But when his daughter still failed to wake up, Duke Bessin fell into deep despair. Then, when I finally woke up after months of slumber, I was able to experience the love of a father. Something I had never felt before in my old life. She said to herself, "He makes a fuss every time I skip a meal." Even just a little while ago, Ella tried to wake Selonia, saying, "My lady, hurry up and wake up, because you skipped dinner last night. His Grace is saying that he will also not eat." She replied quickly, "What? I'll be down right away." Ella thought to herself, "I swear, he's a sucker when it comes to his daughter." Selonia smiled, thinking, "That's why. It's completely understandable that he reacted the way he did when he heard about Ian." When her father learned of the news that Ian wanted to break off the engagement, he immediately barged into Duke Cherville's manor, holding a sword in his hand. It was only after everyone stopped him that he managed to calm down. Originally, the engagement was a pact. Selonia's grandfather, the late Duke, had made it with House Cherville. It was the union of House Bessin, the golden house known to own more wealth than the imperial family, and House Cherville, a prestigious family that held sway over the political world. It was a powerful marriage that even the emperor couldn't help but be wary of. Of course, it all went up in smoke. After that, Ella said, "All done, my lady," Selonia said. "Thank you, Ella." Selonia was as exquisitely beautiful as, if not more than, her mother, who had earned great praise in high society for her appearance. Looking at her face, she thought, "My looks are certainly befitting of a novel's female lead. Thanks to the magic potion Father gave me every day, I hardly lost any muscle despite having been bedridden for months." She then stood up and said, "Come on, Ella. Father must be waiting." At the dining table, her father said, "Selonia, I heard that you requested the Finesse Guild for information on that woman," she replied. "Yes, father," he asked. "By any chance, do you still have feelings left for that bastard? If so, I'll go talk to Duke Chervy." She cut him off. "No, father. It's not that, so please don't misunderstand." She thinks in her mind, "I knew the guild would get in touch with father." Finesse, the biggest information guild in the Flanagan Empire, is one of the businesses run by House Bessin. Information equals power and money. Following House Bessin's creed, the guild had been established by the first head of the family, and it still supports House Bessin today, she said inwardly. Until not too long ago, I didn't really feel the need for an information guild, but now that I require unfabricated information, the guild has become quite helpful. But of course, father ended up finding out. Her father drops his fork saying, "Sally, if you're still fond of him but are worried about our family's reputation," she again interrupted him. "No, father, there's just something I really need to check." He flinched. "Something you need to check?" she began. "Leif and Mac Ryan visited today, you see, and by some weird coincidence, the two of them also seem to have fallen for Miss Grace. The timing is so strange that it's almost as if they planned it. That's why I'm curious to find out the cause of all this." She thinks in her mind, "My dear friend's change of heart is no longer something I can just overlook. If their feelings for me were simply for the development of the original story, then what about me? I treated them with sincerity. If Grace is suspicious, it means they changed because of something she did. And if she isn't, they simply had a change of mind. Perhaps I just want to confirm that none of this is because of me," she said. "Don't worry, father. Whatever it may be, I will find out the truth," she concluded. "Right. There must be a reason. I must have overlooked something." Meanwhile, Ian went to meet Grace. He said, "I'm glad I quickly finished my work. Now I can go on a lovely date with you a day early. Do you like the scenery? What do you think, Grace?" he asked her. "Grace, is there any place you'd like to go?" she replied. "I'd like to go to that dessert cafe that the other ladies recommended," he asked. "All right, what's it called?" she smiled, saying. "Roblink." Ian hesitated, thinking, of all the dessert cafes, she wants to go to Selonia's favorite shop. She called. "Yo, Grace?" he replied. "Grace, that place is far out, and it's not even that famous. How about Bredgel? It just opened, and I hear the interior looks beautiful." She snugged him, saying, "I really want to go to Roblink." Ian's heart raced as she hugged him. He caressed her, saying, "Gee, Grace, Roblink's a bit far out, so let's go somewhere closer by today." Then she coldly asked, "Yo, Grace, have you been there with Lady Selonia already? Is that why you don't wish to go with me? Because you're afraid you'll be reminded of your old memories with Lady Selonia?" He tried to deny. "Grace, that's not why." She freed her hand as Ian tried to grab it. "It's fine. I see there's still no room for me between you two." Saying that, she started walking. Ian tried to stop her. "Wait, Grace, that's a misunderstanding. I'm simply worried that you'll be tired. If you'd like, we can go to Roblink right now." Hearing that, Grace stopped. Ian added, "I don't care about Selonia at all." Tears welled up at her eyes. She asked, "Do you mean that?" He replied, "Of course. You're the only one for me. That woman has nothing to do with me anymore." Then she said, "I trust that you're telling the truth," he said. "I give you my word." She smiled, saying, "All right then. Let's go to Roblink." So her ordered the servant, "Prepare the carriage right away." Hearing that, Grace smirked to herself. Later, a newspaper boy was shouting, "Extra! Extra! Read all about it! The latest news on the Warriors! Extra! Extra! Read all about it!" He was selling newspaper in the capital. Some passerby buys it and reads, "Look at this. Lady Selonia Bessin has confined herself to her room after getting her heart broken." Meanwhile, Selonia was also reading the same news. She said, "Ha! I can't believe this. How could they publish such crap? I confined myself to my room. For the first time in 9 months since I woke up in this world, I'm finally enjoying the splendid life of a noblewoman. I couldn't be any happier. While drinking tea in the garden, she said aloud, "This is the best. It's exhilarating. So this is what lavish life in the city is like, huh?" The expedition entailed many realistic struggles that weren't described in the novel. Sleeping on the muddy ground made my whole body ache. I had to take showers with freezing cold water, and most of my meals consisted of stale bread. I don't ever want to experience that kind of life again. I know my situation isn't good, but it's the first time I'm experiencing the actual life of a duke's daughter, so why would I confine myself? Get out of here. I'm going to live the high life from now on. Suddenly Ella came and asked, "What did you just say, my lady?" Selonia asked. "Are you back, Ella?" Ella told. "I also heard some unexpected news." "Ah, my lady. I heard His Majesty will be holding a congratulatory banquet." The victory ceremony after defeating the Demon Lord. The Emperor hosted a victory ceremony for the saviors. Ian, Mac Ryan, and Leif all attended, but Selonia couldn't since she was bedridden. Selonia thought, he must be hosting a banquet for me, since I wasn't able to attend the victory ceremony. Ella replied, "Of course. You deserve it, after all." On that note, did you see what the newspapers are babbling on about? They wrote nonsense as if it were the truth. Are they asking to get smacked? She complained. How could they write such articles without even checking the facts? She fumed. I think they're even more out of control because you keep quiet. You should just sue them, Selonia asked. Should I? Looking at her frustrated on her behold, she thinks she's so cute. While she was staying inside the manor, using her recuperation as an excuse, Ella gathered information about the outside world on her behalf. Currently, the hottest topic in high society is no doubt the saviors who defeated the Demon Lord. And among them, most of the attention is on Selonia and Ian's broken engagement. Selonia thought, I guess it's the same in any world where people like to gossip about others. She said, By the way, Ella, what about the thing I asked you to do this morning? Ella replied, I sent the letter you wanted me to send, but the recipient. She filled in. That's right. It's Ian Cherville. It's about time I get my compensation. She thinks in her mind, he'll probably have a fit when he sees my letter. After all, I did request something very valuable to him. Nothing would be better to receive from that bastard as compensation than that. Suddenly another maid came and said, My lady, the deputy chief of the Finesse Guild is here. Selonia asked, What? Already? It hasn't even been a day. She thinks, was it father's influence? He's quick to gather information. She instructed, send him in. At their meeting, Jillian informed, Lady Selonia, I brought the information you requested. It includes everything you asked for. Her personal information, the names of those surrounding her, and even her family history. Looking at the information, she said, Thank you, Jillian. Looking at him, she thought, Jillian? He became the deputy chief of the Finesse Guild at the young age of 24. Knowing how competent he is, the information he brings will surely be reliable. She looks at the envelope. So this envelope contains all I want to know about Grace Benet, huh? Let's see. After taking a look at the information, her heart sank. She asked, bewildered, Is this information true? He replied, Yes, it is. She was flabbergasted. A single piece of paper. Was this all that could be found on Grace? She turned to Jillian. Jillian, I think there may have been a misunderstanding. What I requested was everything you could find on Miss Gra. He cut her off. As you can see, that's everything. She thinks in her mind, even if I couldn't uncover the full truth about everything that happened, I thought I'd at least be able to find something on Grace. But this? I could find this kind of information without the guild's help. At this rate, Jillian spoke. The only thing that stood out was that she often interacted with the three men for about 3 months following the victory ceremony. However, that was only because they asked to see her first. Hearing that, she thought, right, I already read about that. The 4 of them first met at the victory ceremony without any prior connections. Coincidentally, they started talking to each other, and by the last day of the banquet, people said the 3 men never left her side. It meant they gradually fell in love with her during the week-long event. Jillian slides another paper saying, This is the guest list for the victory ceremony. She stared at the list, the Emperor and Empress, the Crown Prince, high-ranking officials, my father. Nothing stood out. She wondered, then was Grace not the cause of all this? Did they really just happen to have a change of heart? She gets confused. I don't know anymore why I even started this. What should I do now? Suddenly Ella cautiously approached. My lady, she suggested. How about you leave the manor this afternoon to get your mind off things? Dazed, she nodded. Sure. Seeing her, Ella thought, poor Lady Selonia, she's completely spaced out. Selonia's mind was racing. Was it because I didn't find out anything? I'm not feeling any better. While I didn't expect to uncover everything at once, I had hoped to at least find some sort of clue. Suddenly Ella interjected. How about we go downtown? You like cake, don't you, my lady? We should go to Roblink and get some nice desserts. It's been ages. Hearing that name, Selonia's ears flinched. She said, nice desserts? Ella replied. Yes. She straightened up, right. I don't have time to wallow in frustration like this, she said. Let's go, Ella, she complied. I'll get ready, my lady. A few hours later, after reaching the bakery, Selonia thought, my timing couldn't have been worse. She saw Leif there standing. She called out, Leif? Seeing her, he flinched. Looking at him, she thought, what twist of fate led me to bump into the person I guaranteed I'd never meet again in just a matter of days? Well, I still can't ignore him, she asked. What are you doing here? He hesitated, flustered. Oh, I. Looking at him, she thought, why is he making that face? It's as if he's seen someone he shouldn't see here. He asked, Are you here to buy some cake? She replied, confused. Yes. What about you, Leif? He began. She thought to herself. I was sure Leif wasn't completely comfortable seeing me either. But something was strange. Leif was a gentleman. He would never act like this in front of someone, he said, blocking her way. Lady Selonia. Well, the thing is, I don't think you should go inside. You see, today's desserts are all sold out, so… Selonia interrupted him. I see, you're still bad at lying. He averted his gaze so she noticed. He had a habit of avoiding her gaze whenever he lied. Seeing that, she thought, so that habit hadn't changed, huh? She then remembered him saying, being able to protect Miss Grace is all I ask for. He hesitatingly called, Lady Selonia. Selonia said, Miss Grace must be inside. Hearing that, he flinched. Well, Selonia concluded, so that was the answer. Grace is inside the shop. It hadn't even been that long since we wished each other the best. Smiling, she wondered, had I already become this much of an uncomfortable presence to him in that short amount of time? My lady, Ella whispered. Should I take out some cakes? She replied. No, I'm going to eat inside. Selonia then turned and said, Well, have a nice day, Leif. He again tried to stop her. Lady Selonia! But she didn't stop. While walking, she thought to herself, why do I have to avoid Grace? If she and I can't be in the same place, I shouldn't be the one having to move out of the way. Grace was the one with whom my fiancé cheated on me. Moreover, I wanted to see what this woman, whose name I'd heard countless times, actually looked like in the flesh. While standing in front of the door, she gets anxious. But why was I so nervous? She reached out to open the door, but someone suddenly opened from inside. It was Grace. She said, Oh my, I didn't expect to bump into you here. A smooth and shameless voice greeted her. What a pleasure it is to see you, Lady Selonia. I've always wanted to meet you. Looking at her, Selonia thought, so it's her. She's more shameless than I expected. The male lead's new woman, Grace Benet. A few months ago, during the expedition, Ian was fighting the monsters in a dungeon. Selonia rushed towards him and asked, Ian, are you alright? You're not hurt, are you? He replied. I'm fine, but what about you? She smiled. I'm alright, since you protected me. He looked at her, concern flickering in his eyes. You look a bit feeble. When we return, let's go to Roblin together, he suggested, forcing a small smile. We'll order a whole table of your favorite desserts, and reminisce about today, she agreed. Alright, let's do that. Back to present, Grace said with a sly smile. You must have come for some dessert as well, Lady Selonia. Seeing that, Selonia thought, why is she acting as if she knows me? Does she want to make it a point that she's seeing my ex-fiancé? She's even more brazen than I thought. Who are you? She asked coolly. It looks like you know who I am, so wouldn't it be proper manners to first introduce yourself to me? With a slight bow, Grace responded. Excuse my late introduction. I'm Grace Benet, daughter of Baron Benet. Forgive me if I was rude. I must have mistaken that I knew you because you're one of the saviors who defeated the demon lord. Hearing that, Selonia thinks in her mind, savior, huh? Right. That's what it also said in the original novel. The four saviors will be forever together based on their trust and affection for each other. She grinned, thinking, although now, I'm just by myself. She then spoke. I didn't become a savior just so that anybody could pretend they know me. Hearing that, Grace flinched and Leif quickly guarded her, calling, "Lady Selonia!" Leif's sharp voice interrupted. "I must say, that was rather rude of you." Miss Grace may have been discourteous, but there was no reason for her to hear that. Looking at his response, Selonia thinks in her mind, so Leif also knows how to make this kind of face. It's surprising that his attitude can change this much. She took a step back, but before she could say anything, a new voice cut in. "Grace, is something wrong? Why are you still?" It was Ian. Looking at him, Grace responded, "Ah, Your Grace." Selonia thinks in her mind, "As I thought." The two of them came together. How dare he go as far as to bring her to Roblink? He knows better than anyone that this is my favorite dessert shop, so how could he? He called out, "Selonia, Your Grace." Grace clung to his arm, her eyes wide and teary. "What do you think you're doing, Lady Selonia?" Ian bellowed. Bewildered, Selonia responded, "Pardon? I didn't do anything." "There's no need to defend her, Grace," Ian said firmly. "It doesn't matter what happened. I asked you not to be rude to my fiancé." This came as a sudden shock to her. Selonia thinks in her mind, why was I trying so hard to find the reason, when our relationship was clearly already over? How foolish of me to linger over a past I can't return to. I've been wondering how the story may have changed and what could have affected our relationship, but I see. I was the only one who has been holding on to such thoughts. Ian added, "I hope we don't ever see each other again. That would be the best for both of us." To which Selonia responded, "You're the one who should be conducting yourself properly." Ian gets shocked. "Excuse me?" She thought, determined to not back away. Whatever the reason, they're the ones who changed. "I didn't do anything wrong," she questioned. "How dare you go around like this?" Ian again gasped in shock. "Lady Selonia," she continued, "I've always known she was the brazen type. But you could at least pretend to feel shame when there are so many eyes watching. Are you proudly showing everyone the woman with whom you cheated on me?" Ian gets flushed. So Grace whispered to her, "We should leave, Your Grace." Then Ian stormed away saying, "Ha, I've been deceived all along. It was all just pretend." As they were leaving, a dragon flew above them. He was Mac Ryan. Looking at him, Selonia thinks, Mac Ryan. He must have been waiting for Grace nearby. "I'll just get some desserts to go." Before she could leave, Grace spoke again, her voice sickly sweet. "By the way, Lady Selonia," she said, her tone dripping with amusement, "His Grace and I will be getting engaged soon." Hearing that, Selonia thinks, "Ha, so she wants to brag, huh? And why are you telling me this?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. Selonia gets shocked by the sudden remark. "What?" But Grace quickly clasped Ian's arm and said, "Your Grace, let's go together." Grace clasped his arm tightly, and he gently held her hand in return. Ian replied, "Grace, let's hurry back." "Good idea," Leif agreed. "She must be exhausted from traveling," Mac Ryan added. "Should I take you home on my back? That would be faster." Looking at them, Sally thinks in her mind, Grace has become their new heroine. I'll accept that our relationship wasn't as significant as I thought, and that everything has changed. "Thank you," she murmured, closing her eyes, "for helping me let go of our past." Later, Leif was holding a paper. His thoughts were interrupted by Mac Ryan. "You made your choice knowing what you were getting into." Leif turned to face him. Mac Ryan, "Yes, I did. Even though the situation changed, things are still the same for us." News of Ian and Miss Grace spread quickly. Duke Ian Cherville announces engagement to Miss Grace Benet. I knew the two were in love, yet I still chose to stay by her side. He wondered aloud, "It was my decision, so why do I feel so empty?" He told Grace Benet, "When I first met her at the victory ceremony, I was captured by her innocence. I thought things could change this time around, that I wouldn't have to remain beside her as just a friend, like with Lady Selonia. But this time was no different. Instead of me, Ian stood by her side, and all I could do was watch the two from afar. It was the same as with Lady Selonia." He sighed, "But that doesn't mean I can stop liking her. Before I even knew it, I was completely captivated by her. I got used to the fact that she would never reciprocate my feelings, and all I can do is be content with staying in her presence." "Are you regretting it now?" a voice broke through his thoughts. "After withdrawing your knight's pledge in the blink of an eye? If you were going to regret it, why did you even bother changing your mind?" Leif asked coldly. "But you also asked her to return your heart. If you were going to take it away like that, why did you give it to her in the first place? You're being true to your heart, right?" he continued. "Well, I am too," Mac Ryan responded. I simply did the best I could to save Sally back then. If I hadn't, she would have died, Leif argued. Then you should have stayed by her side until the end. I had no idea you'd take back your heart. Are you saying you don't care if she gets hurt anymore? That's nonsense, Mac Ryan shouted. As he was speaking, a sudden thump in his mind stopped him. A ominous feeling stopped him from speaking further. He wondered, thinking about Selonia. What is this feeling I have? It's as if… Mac Ryan! A voice called out. He turned his head. It was Grace. She said, "Come here and eat with us." As he heard her voice, all the thoughts about Selonia faded. He stood silent for a moment, then turned to her. "Grace, I'm coming." Seeing his irregular response, Leif got a hunch. Just now. Mac Ryan seemed confused for a moment. I wonder why. He also started feeling nauseous a little. But again Grace's voice removed all the uncertainty in his mind. She said, "Sir Leif, you too." He also forgot everything and gets drawn to her beautiful voice and lovely smile. He said to himself, "Right. Grace Benet is the one I truly love." Meanwhile, Sally was thinking, the original novel is over. Whether it was a happy or a sad ending. In the novel, a month after subjugating the Demon Lord, Selonia and Ian get married, and the story ends there. But we're already past that point. She crumpled the piece of paper she was writing on and thinks, that means there's no predetermined story to unfold any further. In other words, I'm the writer of my own story now. She tossed the paper around. Then Ella said, "My lady, would you like another piece of cake?" She replied, "Of course. Order some more." Suddenly she heard the whispering of other noble ladies. "My gosh, Lady Selonia's over there. How did the daughter of a baron take her spot?" Another whispered. "What in the world did she do to get rid of the heir of that golden family?" Listening to them, Sally thinks, here we go. But Ella frowned. How dare they talk behind your back? Sally tried to stop. Ella, calm down. Scratching her cheek, she thinks, I really don't mind. Just as she had told me, Grace and Ian's engagement was soon announced, and as a result, I naturally became the center of everyone's attention. But I've already found closure. It wasn't easy to rid myself of any lingering feelings, but I didn't want to waste this precious new life I was given by getting carried away with my emotions. She said, smiling, I'm busy enough enjoying all this tasty food. Then Ella asked, by the way, when are you returning to the treatment center? She drooped at the question. I'd forgotten about that, but now you just reminded me. Ella asked, pardon? In the novel, Selonia worked at a treatment center as one of the Empire's top healers. She said, I still have 6 months of vacation left, so I'm going to use it all before I return to work. Now all that's left is to take things easy and enjoy my life, Ella remarked. That sounds great, my lady. You can use that time to do everything you want, Sally replied. Yes, I'm going to do everything I've been wanting to do. After all, I won't have anything to worry about. Meanwhile, in a distant forest, a mysterious figure was walking. Some days ago, few maids were talking to each other. One said, Doesn't Lady Selonia seem like a different person these days? You feel it too? It's like she's been reborn. She never loses her temper or gets cranky anymore. Other added, Recently, she even smiled and said hello to me. Another asked, Whoa, so why do you think she suddenly changed? If you think about it, she's been different ever since she joined the expedition, one suggested. How about this? Defeating the Demon Lord is something that requires you to risk your life. And after the expedition, she was even unconscious for 3 months. They say a person changes when they've had a taste of death, one replied. True, she was bedridden for a long time, after all, First agreed. Yes, that's possible. Sally was listening to their conversation. She thinks in her mind, I was cranky and often lost my temper, huh? It sounds like they're talking about the old Selonia. But was she really like that in the original novel? This conversation is definitely worth remembering. Back to present, Sally invited the noble ladies that were whispering about her. She invited them to her table. A lady responded, Lady Selonia, thank you so much for allowing us to sit with you. It's great to hear that you feel better now. You look more and more beautiful as the days pass. At first the atmosphere was tense. Observing them, Sally thinks in her mind, look at their faces. They must find me really uncomfortable. I was just talking to Ella and happened to notice there were no more empty tables, so I told them to sit here. Based on the conversation I overheard a few days ago and the looks on these ladies' faces, I can tell the old Selonia must have had quite a difficult personality. But I'm living her life now, so I might as well work on improving my reputation, she finally began. Don't mention it. I should rather thank you, ladies, for keeping me company. As you know, I've been away from high society for a long time, so there aren't any fellow ladies who socialize with me. Hearing that, the noble ladies glanced at each other and nodded. One of them began. Haha, no, the honor is all ours, another added. Ahaha, thanks to you, I'll be able to enjoy the cake I've been craving, the third also chipped in. Me too. Their coincidental meeting turned into a long conversation, and right around the time Selonia learned just how much influence these ladies had, so they started talking about Ian. Lady Abel began. I'm not sure if I should say this, but, Lady Pelaine asked. What is it? Lady Roanna said. Please go ahead, Lady Abel said. Perhaps it's inappropriate of me to say this, but I heard about Duke Cherville and Miss Grace's engagement today. I'm just worried that you might be too devastated, Saley responded. Oh dear, I'm fine, Lady Abel continued. I'm glad to hear that, but I'm still surprised someone would dare to do such a thing. How could she flirt with a man who's already engaged? Other ladies also added. It seems Baron Benet's family has no dignity. It's a disgrace for us nobles, Saley then remarked. Both the man who cheated and the woman he cheated with are to blame. Hearing that, the ladies flinched. Lady Pelaine said. Yes, His Grace went too far. He tainted the great Cherville family name by having an affair, Lady Roanna agreed. Exactly. Lady Selonia wasn't just any fiancé. Moreover, she was unconscious at the time. Listening to them, Saley thought, I have to say, it feels pretty good hearing all this. While there were a few newspapers that spoke positively of Ian and Grace's relationship, most condemned his behavior. However, due to Ian's influential position in high society, everyone stayed quiet. Of course, that was only because I, the victim, hadn't spoken up yet. He'd be wrong if he thought I'd keep quiet after being humiliated, Saley responded. Who knows? Perhaps it's the severity of the situation that allowed me to get over him this quickly, a lady expressed. Ugh, just thinking about it makes me so mad, right? Suddenly a jingle of bell interrupted their conversation. As the whispers arose around them, Lady Abel wondered aloud. What's all the commotion about? Lady Roanna sked. Who could it be? Looking at the person in tattered clothes, Lady Pelaine said. My gosh! Wait, that's... All of them froze silent, unable to respond. Saley gulped. What's going on? Who are they talking about? A person in black with a chilling aura walks past them. Lady Abel said, Of all people, what's he doing here? Saley asked. Who is he? She replied, The Beast of the Night. Saley looked at him. The Beast of the Night. She had a hunch, Why does he look so familiar? I definitely met him somewhere. She thinks in her mind, that's strange. This is a romance novel, so all important characters have looks that stand out, and the main characters are all drop-dead gorgeous. So, for a character I'm seeing for the first time to look so attractive, and he's called the Beast of the Night? Normally, extras don't receive such nicknames. I have to admit, it does suit his appearance. He doesn't look like the type to like sweet things. But maybe he's not what I think he is. That person talked to a servant, and the servant handed him an ominous-looking bag. Looking at them bag, Saley thinks, that looks really fishy. Saley spoke. Ladies, I hope that man isn't doing anything to harm the owner. Lady Abel denied. Oh no. That's food, my lady, she asked. Food? Lady Abel replied. Yes, I heard he receives food from this place and distributes it to those in need, Lady Pelaine said. Really? What a wonderful thing to do. I didn't expect that at all. I always found him a bit scary. So Saley concluded. So he's famous because he's a good person? But what's this nervous premonition I keep sensing? I strangely feel as though I shouldn't send that man away. As the person was walking away, his robe flutters and Saley saw a scar on his chest. She gets startled. Wait, that scar on his chest. It's not an ordinary scar. Aside from the Demon Lord, this world has always been a peaceful place. So how could he have suffered such a dangerous wound? She wondered. That man. Who is he? On her back and carriage she told about the scar to Ella. She said thoughtfully, a scar? On the Beast of the Night's body? I don't remember seeing one. She added, among the rumors about him, some say he goes around fighting criminals and dangerous beasts. Perhaps that's where it's from. Saley concluded, but it didn't look like that kind of scar. Is that really all there is to it? Ella continued. Anyway, how was today? I think you met some really nice ladies. I hope you feel better now. Hearing that, Saley said, going out for the first time in a while certainly lifted my spirits. While they were on their guard in the beginning, before I knew it, we had become close and started gossiping. I even promised to invite them to the Bessin Manor for our next tea time. Ella responded. We'll have to decorate the garden and make it look pretty, in time for when your friends visit, my lady, she replied. The garden looks just fine as is. It does feel like I'm starting over from scratch. But this kind of life doesn't seem so bad either. During their way back, Ella asked, My lady, I've always been curious. What does the Demon Lord look like? Sally reminded of the Demon Lord. Ella continued, There are rumors flying around about his appearance, but I heard only the saviors know what he really looks like. He must look like the leader of, no, like a monster, right? Sally was surprised by the question. She remembered, the Demon Lord's appearance? Well, he possesses black scales covering his body, and stands at a towering height of at least 3 meters. Moreover, with his half-human, half-beast appearance, he gazes at you with eerie red eyes, she said. He was scary, Ella said. I knew it. Actually, at the dessert cafe today, I heard people saying the Demon Lord was extremely good-looking. They said he captivates people with his good looks. Hearing that, Sally flinched. Is it alright to let her misunderstand like this? Well, I suppose I'm the only one who's actually seen the Demon Lord's true form, so... Her thoughts were interrupted by the sudden neigh of the horses. Her carriage was blocked by the monsters. As the carriage abruptly stopped, Sally asked, My goodness. Cohen, what's wrong all of a sudden? He replied from outside. Apologies, my lady. I was trying to cross the woods, but suddenly, these beasts approached. Sally thinks in her mind, oh no. Starving monsters must have smelled our tracks and followed us here. She asked, Are you alright? Can't we just pass through them? He replied. The horses won't budge. They're too scared, she resolved. But it's even more dangerous if we stay still like this. If I'd at least brought my sword, I could have handled a few myself. But this is just too many. Looking at the sheer numbers, Cohen said while trembling. I'm really sorry, my lady. I'll try to block a few in the front, so please take the carriage in. Sally refused. No, I won't be leaving you here by yourself, Cohen. If I chase away the ones blocking the front, do you think you can get the carriage moving again? He said. Yes, I think so. She gets determined and said, All right. I'll try and create a path using my healing powers. When that happens, you should start moving right away. She thinks in her mind, I can't have Ella or Cohen get hurt. I have to do something. Ella stopped her. Don't go, my lady. There are too many monsters. It's dangerous, she responded. Wait for me here, Ella. Don't move. As she stepped forward, the beasts growled at her. Looking at them, she thinks, I can shortly create a gap using my healing light. And if I give Cohen the signal right then, we can get out of this mess. She moved her hand and a white light in shape of a ball emerged. She said, Right now! Cohen, quickly move the carrier! But the remaining beasts recovered quickly. She gets startled. What? Already? Was the light not strong enough? The spell got lifted too quickly. But we have to get out of here. Suddenly a beast rushed and lunged at her. But it was stopped by the beast of the night using magic. With the sound of boom, the beast disappeared and the remaining scattered away. But Sally falls to the ground. She wasn't able to move lying on the ground. She wondered, what was that black light just now? Magic? Did someone come to save us? As the person walks close to her, she wondered, who is it? She took a glance, and it was the beast of the night. As he was walking to her, she thinks, what's he doing here? Suddenly her gaze fell on his face, and she gets reminded, that face. I remember now. I experienced déjà vu when I first saw him at the cafe, but I failed to recognize him because he was too far away. But how? She spoke lying on the ground. Why you? I swore you were dead, he asked. You know me? She said inwardly. How could I forget? He's the man I killed with my own hands. No, he's the Demon Lord.